We didn't get the opportunity to spend every day of our lives for 40 years with our birth families, but because we were in prison with life sentences with no parole at the time, we spent all those days with the women we left behind.
They're like another part of my family outside of my family.
Right.
And there's no way I could come home and just totally forget about them, you know. So that's why I do what I do. And I'll continue to do what I do because those people deserve the opportunity to be out here.
I grew up in Pittsburgh. I lived here for 13 years, so I call Pittsburgh home. I lived with my mother and two brothers and a sister. My mom died when I was 16, 3 days before my 17th birthday. Buried my mother on my birthday. I felt like my life was just over. Everything, everything collapsed.
Well, I'm from Philly, and I was raised with my mom and my dad, my siblings, they made the best they could for us. When my mom passed away, it's like my whole world crashed. But never in my wildest dreams would I think I would have been behind bars with a life sentence.
I got out of high school in 1958, so um, I right away I had four children by the time I was 23. I didn't have time to think about who I was. I just had to do what I had to do.
I had a wonderful childhood. My mother and dad, they were wonderful people. But the thing is, something happened to me when I turned 7 years old. My brother tried he tried to rape me.
A few years out of my childhood, from 5 or 6 years old till like 10, maybe 9. It was a lot of physical abuse in my household. I went through all this traumatic stuff, and no one helped me through it.
When I hit 13 is when I just let my self-esteem just go downhill. And I just really didn't love myself at that time, and I turned to drugs and alcohol to basically numb that feeling. And just the want of being in a certain crowd and being around certain people, that's the lifestyle I thought I had to take.
Dealing drugs, hanging out, being numb. Because I was physically, psychologically, and emotionally numb. So I wanted to be spiritually numb. I didn't want to think. I didn't want to be bothered. And it didn't take much to be a mule. So I was just existing on fumes, thinking this was the way to go. And here I am.
When I got to jail was 1977, so I actually was 17 when I got up there. And I must have been 20 when I met Avis.
By the time I got to Muncie, I had turned 20, and that's when I met you. The State Correctional Institution at Muncie is literally in the middle of the Pennsylvania forest in Lycoming County. When I arrived there, I pretty much had not grieved my mother's death. I certainly had not grieved Mr. Walker's death, who was the victim in my case. I was very angry and bitter.
It was just a mess for me, and it was a hard adjustment for me. I mean, when I got there, I was a little afraid. Then I said, "Oh no, I'm gonna have to put up my backbone in it because I am not gonna let anyone take advantage of me or hurt me or any to that effect." So I knew I had to build up my courage to deal with the unknown, so to speak.
They used to have Ku Klux Klan rallies not too far down the street, and they would actually advertise it on the news that they were having them.
Mm-hmm.
I never felt safe there because coming from the city, for me, it was in the middle of nowhere. We were women, and we had, brown and black skin.
You really had to be really careful with how you would answer them, and your body language, because the least little thing would give them a reason to jump on you and beat the hell out you. There's nothing fun or funny about or enjoyable about being incarcerated. We do suffer too, and we have suffered, and they are suffering.
Day-to-day experiences in here, it's definitely rough being in prison. You have to create a life for yourself in here. So I build a routine for myself. I go to work, I do exercise and I do activities.
I still get out and go to the yard when I can, and I used to go to walk, but now I really can't. But the younger ones take me up and, we sit and chat, to let them know that I'm available for them to talk to if they need help. And we have a lot of that here.
I came to jail when I was 19, so I had to, start over pretty much in here. I had to build a family in here. A lot of people took me under their wing, like open arms, and they saw something in me, and they pushed me in the right direction.
It's not often that someone gets to live in an 8x10 or 10x12 room with perhaps 1 to 5 other people, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. You get to know people on an entirely different level when you live in such close quarters with them for decades.
I don't know. We just grew closer while we were there, and we became family.
I can remember one day, it was a beautiful day out. It was just starting to be sunset. And I was eating an ice cream cone. And I remember thinking, I wonder if Mr. Walker liked ice cream. I wonder if he likes sunsets. And I felt so bad. And I knew in that moment, I was like, you need to change everything about the way you think and act, so nothing like this ever happens again. And that was just really a turning point for me.
I've lost a lot of family members, outside of here and also inside of here. The grief process is definitely overwhelming, and I think about my victim's family a lot, more so, my victim's mom. I can only imagine losing a child.
Not only did I lose my parents, but I lost 2 children while I was here. And learning what it does to the family, the effect all the way around, I think that's really been something that has made a big impact in my life, and also to be able to have that empathy because now I've gone through it too.
That day when they called me and they told me that my son had been hit by a car and he died that Friday, it clicked something in my heart, and I knew that made me know how my victims felt.
I had an aunt in 1980 who was killed. Her boyfriend did that to her. He did 5 years and got out. Yes, and I understand again because I just lost a cousin last year. He was shot down, you know.
James was a neighborhood friend. We both came from dysfunctional lifestyles, and what I'm sorry about more than anything is I had the opportunity to change my way of thinking, change my way of living, change my way of feeling. I had the opportunity to be made anew, and he never got it.
For the surviving members of homicide victims, if we had it to do all over again, we certainly would make another choice. A choice that would have allowed your family member to remain alive.
Absolutely true.
And we are definitely sorry that we played a part in their untimely death. And we wish we could undo it.
I had to work through all this, in my jail time. You grow and change and become more aware of the things that you have done and not blaming it on someone else and making excuses to be the victim and not the person who made the situation the way it was.
I became a peer assistant. I became a certified peer specialist. I'm working on my BA in sociology and psychology. So I'm continually working on self-help and self-management. And these are the things that I share with my peers.
People don't understand that the groups that they have up here really help. They open you up inside to be able to speak about what you need to speak about. I did not know that there was other women that were going to do the same thing I was doing.
I feel like we get used a lot to hold things together inside the jail. And on the flip side of that, because of who we are and how we've grown and matured, like we do it willingly. What's bad is I feel like it makes them not want us released, because then who's going to do it?
And that's the stigma that they hold over your head because you're doing a life sentence. And they feel as though it's a waste for you to educate yourself or better yourself, because they feel like you're never going home anyway, so what the hell?
Don't get me wrong, I love being that person that they call on, and so does a lot of my family in here. It's just that when do we get the opportunity to show the people who are seeing us or reviewing us that, not saying we want to pat on the back, but saying, look at the woman who we became.
I've been here 35 years, and I've grown up with a lot of people who have the same sentence as I do, and I've seen their health deteriorate over the years. I've seen them lose hope. They say a lot of things is cruel and unusual punishment, but that is.
A lot of the lifers here, they're called upon for hospice, and they go to the infirmary, and 9 out of 10, that person who is deathly ill is a lifer. So it's kind of like you're sitting there and you're taking care of someone who is a lifer, and you're just like looking at your reflection as to, is this what's going to happen to me?
I always knew somehow, somewhere in my heart, that God was going to find a way for me to get out of there. I didn't know how, I didn't know when, but I knew that I was not going to spend the rest of my life behind prison walls. But it was a process. Boom, 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 boom. Then years went through. It wasn't like, 10 years, you can go home. 15 years, you're out. I did 40 years. But I was persistent. I believed it was going to happen. And like I said, my higher power made it happen.
Pretty much the same as Paulette. Years of appeals, decades of appeals. They were all denied, but I do pray every day. And that helped me. And I would always say when I was incarcerated, I'm going to walk out of here and not be carried. Meaning I was going to leave my incarceration alive and not in a body bag.
What did it feel like to exit the prison? What did it feel like to walk outside of those walls?
Oh my God, it was amazing. I was happy, I was grateful, but I was sad too.
I can definitely relate to that. I was elated to be leaving, and the women were on the porch yelling my name and Miss Strickland's name, who left also, and waving to us. I was told they were waving. I didn't look back. I was told they were waving. I knew what it meant to them to see us go, how much joy that brought, but I also knew from my own experience how they were feeling on the inside, having to stay and watch us go. So you do have those mixed emotions. You're thrilled beyond belief to be getting out of there, but you're also sad because you know that the moment you walk out of there, all contact is broken from them.
And that's another thing that makes me fight so hard for those that's behind the walls, because I know their stories. I laugh with them, I cry with them, I pray with them. You know what I'm saying? And I know they're not really the person, that they label them to be.
We talked about, being able to come home at an age where, you're useful to your community, coming in here with a life sentence. Your fate is basically death, and it's like, you can give up hope. You can just come in here and say, I don't want to do anything. But that's not, how we feel.
We did not have to be what we were accused of being. We could grow, we could be successful, because I've superseded a lot of limitations. Incarcerated. So if I could do it incarcerated, I know how much stronger I would have been on the outside had I had the opportunity and some help.
People change. People deserve second chances. I'm not going to lay down and let this time do me. I'm going to do it.
We push forward, we say, hey, we want to change, we want to make amends. But without being able to see parole, how can we show this to society that we are different human beings and that we can live productive lives outside of here?
Everybody deserves a chance, and I feel that way because I always did, even before coming to prison. I didn't think anybody should get the death penalty or spend their entire lives while incarcerated. Because what do that say about the person who gave them that sentence? What do that say about you? Just one chance is all we want.
I have been in this prison 40 years, but I feel free. But what I seek is liberty. That means to be able to do what I want to do when I want to do it. Freedom is a mind thing, and I'm free in my mind, and that's really an important thing to me.
I don't want to see any walls, any fences. I just want open lands, water, trees. Just want to fly away. Be like, get away from all of this. But yeah, freedom is a privilege. It's a blessing. It's a good feeling. It's one that I feel like I would never take for granted again.